There's a concentrated effort to stop it. They'll do anything to stop us, especially now. Because where is our opposition?
He's been fighting for us for so long. So many schools of thoughts we've been through, yeah, to keep us strong. So tell me, what is it that you're willing to do to make our dreams come true? Yeah, make our dreams come true. Been a long time coming, but now we're here. So won't you stand up and show no fear? For the master, master teacher. Freedom for the master, master teacher. Freedom for the master, master teacher. Freedom for the master, master teacher. 'Cause he's the man of the hour. They kidnapped him for building Tamare. He put his life on the line for us all. And for the truth, the lies must fade away. Fade away. It's been a long time coming. Yes, let's be strong. For the 7 seals are breaking. It won't be long to make our dreams come true. For a life that's new. Some are called and few are chosen. Said, how about you? For the master, master teacher. Freedom 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 for the master, freedom, master teacher. Freedom for the master, master teacher. Freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher. Freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher. Think not that we are earthborn, we come from earth, we may be, but we are life-born spirit, and without knowing we can never be free. Knowledge of this was lost when we were cast into blindness. The master teacher came and broke the chains of bondage. For the master, master teacher. Freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher. Freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher. Freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher. Freedom for the master, bring it master teacher. Bring it freedom for the master, master teacher. Freedom for the master, bring it master teacher. Bring it freedom for the master, master teacher. 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 Freedom for the master.
Rahubat Muesar. Greetings, family. How you doing? Once again, glad to be here. OSM Vision, our soul matters. Ask us anything. My name's Sir Ken, a humble student teacher of the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, known to us affectionately as Baba Yanun. All right. So, yeah, good to be back as usual. Remember, you can ring. You should be able to see the number on the screen. You can ring live. The UK area code +44 753 996 3882. And yeah, you have to subscribe before you can comment. You just only have to be subscribed for a few minutes, and you should be able to start commenting. As usual, we want to thank you all for your support. You know, without you, we wouldn't be able to do this. Every little donation you give us helps, goes towards a lot of things we're doing to bring you more value. And yeah, before we get into the questions and the calls, yeah, it was my, well, people use all different terms. It was my Earth Strong birth anniversary or birthday, whatever term you're familiar with, and it took some time out to really just like lock off, reflect, think introspectively, and just like give thanks, because you know no one knows if tomorrow is promised to them. So every time it comes around, you still, even though we don't really, you know, celebrate it in that way as if, you know, you are special or more special than anybody else, but we take time out to reflect, and yeah, it was very interesting for me. And what I realized is, it's like you just ask yourself questions like, why am I here? What we're doing? Are we making a difference? What's our purpose? You know, and these are profound questions, and it came to me like the two main things. I mean, other than doing what we do, this is to us, this is business as usual. We're gonna constantly be answering your questions as we do. You know, putting out the content, sharing what we've learned by way of Partner Babyanon. Yeah, I know. I want to just yeah. There's a call already, but I just want to say, yeah, the two things is that's not business as usual. Business as usual for us is answering your questions, putting out the content, doing the videos, all of that. We're gonna keep doing that. But there were two things that came to mind. Number one, the priority is to get the master teacher home. All right, and that's something that is very important. And the second thing, of course, is to build and rebuild, and that's why, you know, we're doing our projects to build. And for those who are helping and getting involved, we want to give thanks. All right, are they still on the line? Okay, yeah. So just wanted to kind of like share that, and for all those who are, you know, in the OSM family, appreciate, love you, man. All right, let me look and see if we haven't got any questions in the comments yet, but we got the call live, so let's take that call.
Hello.
Hey, Rahubat, greetings. Where you calling from? What's your name and what's your question, please?
It's Kareth Muir from Jamaica.
Greetings, Rahubat, as we say in Musbatia. How are you?
Yes. I'm doing well.
Great. What's your question, please?
Okay, so my question is, well, one of the times I heard you talking to somebody about the soul, and you say that some people can lose their soul, which means that they're no longer connected to the soul realm. So what exactly is the soul, and how is it different from the spirit?
Okay. Yeah, this soul question seems to keep coming up. And if I have some time, let me see if I can find something where sometimes it's best to just hear the way that the master teacher explains it. But I would, whilst I'm trying to find, okay, I found it straight away. So this must mean you're supposed to get this directly, right? So let me explain. This is from a Patarak called Soul, Soul, Spirit, Spirit, which you can get hold of, right? So the master teacher says from verse 2, do you know and remember all I said to you of the soul and spirit? Okay. And you as females and males. Okay, so number 3 says, excuse me, I told you Ba'a, soul, and Rawa, soul. So those are like two different names that refer to the soul. And 4, I spoke to you about Ka'a, spirit, and Nafas, spirit. Sorry, I'm getting some kind of feedback coming back from you, or some noise and interference. So If you could just mute whilst I'm going through this, and then you can unmute when I finish, please. That will help. Okay, so 5, and about arc. Sorry, did you hear what I just requested in terms of if you could mute whilst I'm going through this, please? Thank you. Let me go back to 5, and about the arcs, etheric being, and the hu, that's the oversoul. All right. So, and you ask again about these parts of your existence. So you exist, and you have these different parts as soul, spirit, etheric being, and the oversoul. The hu, the over being, par arch, the etheric being, par ba'a, the creative is expressional being, 4, and par rawa, the breath of the living being. All right. And it says, then you have par ka'a, the exoplasmic being, 6, par nafas, the living being, and 7, par khatat, the physical being. So you're made up of these different parts of you, right? Now, when you say, what is the soul? It's the same essence, right? That if you have, okay, so let me go back. So you have the different realms. So that's telling you that you're composed of these different elements. But there are realms where the 4th realm is called the 3rd realm is called the soul realm. And then you have the 4th one called the mental realm. So you got the physical, then you have the spirit, then you have, as I just mentioned, the soul, and then you have the mental, and then you keep going up 9 levels in terms of ether and etheric. So in order to be able to interact with these different realms, you have to also have something that connects with them. So that's why if you have a soul, you will connect to that soul realm, because the reason people in the physical or the lowest realm can't vibrate or move or have certain emotions is because they don't have that within them that connects with that realm known as the soul realm. You said, what's the difference with the spirit? The spirit is existing, but on the lower realms, so that when you leave here, the spirit helps you to propel or carry your spirit further to go to the higher realms. So everything that exists vibrates, and that relates to energy in terms of trees, rocks, animals, etc., that they vibrate on the lower vibrational frequencies. Now, if you have a soul, then you can tap into the soul realm. Everything has ether, but they're at different levels. The higher ethers, which the highest is known as the 9 or the 9th ether, you can tap into the lower levels of ethers if you're, like, for example, you can tap into the 5th, 6th ethers if you're Caucasian or Adamites. But to tap into the higher ones, you have beings like the Dravidians, or what we call, the Denisovan and the Homo Florensis. They can tap into the 7, 8. But we as Nagaru can tap into the 9, or we have the potential to tap into the higher realms. All right, so let me carry on reading. I'm going to jump to verse 37.
You said Denisovans, right?
Yes. So when I go to verse 37, it says, first, we'll look at Pahu, which is the overbeing or the oversoul, pre-existent, being of mental. Then you have, and then we look at Pa'ach, the etheric being or creative expression, which is linked to all as an energy double. Right? So Pa'ach, the arc vibrates on 1 through 10 levels. and 10 is only a repeat of the first level of higher dimensions. So what we're basically saying is that when you say 10, you're starting again, because the highest number is number 9. So when we say ether, we're saying 9 ether, but within each of these realms, you have many subtle vibrational rates within them too. So when you get to 9, it starts again on a higher level to 10. From 10, sorry, so you go 10, 11, 12, and then you're going to get to what you call 20, but 20 is another cycle. So there are cycles within cycles. Okay, so it says 39, the arc vibrates on 1 through 10 levels, and 10 is only a repeat of the first level on higher dimension. And another way I explain this is like when you look at colors, for example. Yeah, most people are familiar with the basic colors. So you could say like red, yellow, blue. And then you can go up all the way, if you look at the colors of the rainbow, to what people call the highest, which they will say is purple, which is really violet. But even though you might say red, there are millions of subtleties or variations of red, and the same with the yellow and the blue. So that's what we mean when we're saying you get back to a level on the higher dimension. So 10 is in fact 1 again, 41. And then we look at the Ba'a, called the soul, creative expression of emotional being. This is why I say if you have emotions, this is emotions tie into having a soul. 42. And there is a counter soul called in our language Parawah, called also the soul. Yet, 43, yet it is breath or wind and affects the body actions. This is why breathing is what we're referring to when you say the breath, because the breath interacts with your solar plexus, which is what gives you something called the burning. So you're alive, and the breath is part of that thing that keeps you alive. So you take in oxygen and the burning takes place, it's ignited, and you give off carbon dioxide. So if you keep going, 44, it ignites with the first human breath of air or the mixture of gases. Ether, one breeze, the atmosphere or breath, 45, and then we look at Ka'a, called the spirit. 46, ghost, plasma, comes into being at the moment of sperm and ovum contact, or spermatozoa fertilizing an oocyte or egg. Okay, so it started to go on to explain that the whole process of how the sperm ties in with the ovum to start to grow you. But all of these subtle levels of vibrations known as ether, known as the soul, known as spirit, they all are in the air or atmosphere in one level or one way or another. Like I said, the breath is part of the soul because you breathe in to stay alive. Now, when we say people lose their soul, what we're saying is that part of you, that solar plexus, that part of you that's connected emotionally to the higher levels of vibration, to the soul realm, you get cut off. You don't have that connection. So you're only operating on spirit and operating on the lower vibrations. You see, so you may have the ability for it to be activated. It's like having a car, yeah? And you have a battery in the car. That battery, say, in a car.
Oh, you're explaining how to get back your soul.
Yes, if it's possible, because you can have a flat battery that no matter what you do to it, you will not be able to get the car to start. So you'd have to buy a new battery. Yeah. But if possible, if it's still got a bit of juice or it's still able to be activated, you can charge it up and then restart the battery. And then once you get it warmed, you know, anyone who's ever had an experience with having a dead battery, and it's you get the jump leads, as we call them over here. You connect two batteries together, so that means that another battery that's still got a lot of juice or essence is going to jump start the other one, and if it's possible it will start. Then you have to drive the car that was flat, the car that had a flat battery, you have to drive it around to get that battery to recharge or warm up. And then the longer you drive it, the more it comes back to life. I've used several examples to explain this, such as even your mobile phone with your battery, where you literally see, the meter that tells you how much battery life you've got left. And if you run to like 1% and you still have a little bit, it will still work. And then you have to plug it in to recharge it. It's the same, but that's if it's possible. If it gets to a point where that ability is no longer available for you, this is what happened when the Caucasians that mixed with animals, they forfeited the ability to connect to the higher vibrations or higher realms, because animals can't access those higher vibrations. They can access to the sixth ether, but not above. You see, so this is what happened. And the coldness where the newts, or the way your brain heats up, because when you look at how you're working, it's all about how your brain newts, or we call it nutat in our language, yeah. That mental activity. In fact, let me read that bit from where I was 47, where it says, when the sperm head is the spark, it thinks it travels in the liquid or fluids in the womb through the heat to survive, and it reached its destiny. So there is mental activity in the male sperm from the brain of the male, from being the oversoul, called synapses, brain synapses. It's nutat, brain newts. The thinking process started in the two testicles, parkasatwi, yeah, creates parmanan, the sperm, semen. You see the phonetically semen, liquid male seed, right? This is a divine mind at work. This is what I'm saying. You have to mentally, yeah, that charge when the brain travels through the spinal column and goes. This is why everyone talks about the pineal gland, and it travels up and then it gets charged up and receives that etheric energy by way of mind, by way of the synapses, and by way of the brain newts. And to think on that level, the brain soup has to heat up. And you can find in neuroscience of wu-nuwapu, you can find more information on that. That's an actual fact if you're not familiar with it. Yeah, so I don't know if you want me to elaborate on anything, but yes, that's why if you're fully connected to the realms, you'll be able to access all the way up to 9 levels. And if you're not, you can only access to a certain point. And some of us have regressed, so we're not using our mental. We're not connected to the soul, because we've become cold. We've started to act and behave in a way that lacks or gives the absence of soul, and you're not able to connect with nature, because nature is also interacting with that higher vibration. And so we say you've lost your soul, or you lose your soul. Now, we are referred to as soul people because we had soul food, soul music, because of that energy, that that whole vibration that we have in terms of how we're able to do certain things, which come when you look at the word mental. You see the first part is men, yeah. So we are referred to as when people refer to God, Allah, these deities, they refer to a him or the gender of a male, and he's above, because the male provides the soul when you know you're having a child, and the female provides the spirit. But the two of them have to come together and work together, and then the higher vibrations come from like your ancestors and the Panatharu. They will give you, you know, that ether. Does that make sense, or do you want me to elaborate or expound on anything?
Yes, it makes sense. But what I want to know is that I'm not sure if you mentioned this already, but I'm asking like about losing the soul. So I think I heard somebody say one of the time that we're normally connected to our soul vibrantly. We have our soul, but when we go through a lot of traumatic experiences, it's like we disconnect from our souls. Is that what causes it?
It can be, because like when you forget, well, it depends on who we're calling the we, because as I said, there different people are different in terms of their makeup. But yes, in terms of, you can be taught or have learnt behavior that cuts you off, right? And this is what religion does, in the way that it cuts you off from connecting with yourself, and then connecting with your ancestors, and then connecting with the Panatharu, the overseers. And this link is, all of them are required in terms of, that's why we talk about the tones, because when we say tones, tones are vibrations and frequencies. So this is why the Master Panabab Yanun gives us back as the Negroid race our tones of FAC, because those three tones are vibrations that connect you to your body, to the planet around you, nature, as well as to the cosmos. So the C will connect you to the higher realms, and the F to nature, and the A to your body. So all of them three have to be aligned, you know. And if you were to read, say, the religious books, a lot of the time they interchange spirit and soul together, you see, and they don't realize the differences between them, or the subtleties between them. Yeah, so yes, you can kind of like have a traumatic experience where you're cut off, and this is why in religion, as I was saying, they don't want you to connect back to your real being, the internal you, which is really your soul. That's the bit that returns and goes back to the higher realms.
Okay, so if you're disconnected from your soul, or if you lose your soul through traumatic experiences, let's say that you die in this life and you reincarnate, will you get back a new soul, a brand new one?
Well, when you lose your soul, that's where it means that you kind of, well, if you have the ability, if you have a soul, for a start, number one. Number two, when you lose it, it can be reactivated or recharged if it's still possible. If it's not, then you will remain on the lower realms, and you can incarnate to try and basically learn like the lessons, in terms of to be able to then move on to the higher realm. So you can if you are a Nagaru, then you'll be able to like come back, learn the lessons, and this time possibly if you do the right things. This is why Wu-Sabat is here. We're trying to save, we say we're saving souls, because souls are being manipulated and being channeled or given to these entities that want to collect it, but they will only collect it on your crossing over, as you call it, dying, when you're dying, that most people don't realize that they will sell their souls or they will lose their souls by following and going in the wrong direction. But because they're still alive, they don't think or anything of it. But when they're crossing over, that is at that point where they will collect the soul, because the soul is like something in the sense of where it's like, you see how thoughts are. Thoughts also have a weight, a vibration, a frequency, and they can take it. Someone can take or grab or send that thought. So it's the same with your soul, where these entities that know that the value of that soul, they know that the soul is the most important part of you, they can direct you or mislead you. And this is what religions do. People don't realize when they're taking these like birth, baptism and shahada and all these things, that they're rituals that you're actually, because it's something that you have to give away. It's not like they can't just take it. You have to utter those words and say you're accepting this. So this is what I'm saying, that religions, they use deception, and people don't realize. That's why when we say to people, it's not a frivolous and just insignificant thing when you go and you utter and take these rituals and ceremonies, because even in terms of when you're looking at like the entertainment industry and so on and so forth, some of them will sell their soul for riches or for money and stuff, and then they think it's fine. But when it comes to that time of paying or collecting, you watch every movie you watch, the devil is always after those beings to collect their souls, because that's very valuable to these entities. And even in the movie like The Matrix, they were kind of showing you how the humans were being produced like commodity, and like a battery, like a source of energy that was necessary for them to subside off, and that's what's happening. But people don't realize how the significance or how serious it is. So Wu-Sabat comes and teaches you about your soul, the two types of souls you have, the Ba'a as well as the Rawa. And in the Bible and in the Quran, they refer to this as the Ruach, or in Hebrew and in Arabic. And then in the Bible, they just say spirit a lot of the time, because they say spirit, everything's spirit. But then there are two separate words, soul and spirit. And people mix up the two because they don't realize that you have the spirit, which is the nafish or the nafas, okay, which is, dealing with that part of you that is also important, but it's not as important as the soul. And those beings who don't have a soul, where they're not really connected to the soul realm, they don't have emotions like that. And that's why the absence of emotions, they're beings, even like these entities like the extraterrestrials, the greys and certain beings, they don't have a soul. And so for them, they study those who have and want to figure out, how they can get one. But the funny thing is, those of us who actually have soul, we don't recognize the value of it. But yet there are so many entities and beings that don't have a soul, that want a soul. So Wu-Sabat teaches you about your soul. It teaches you about how to nurture it through, these practices that are going to help you grow it in terms of the power of the energy that it holds. And then, it will help you when you leave here to go back to the higher realms. And if you don't have it, then you can't go, or you keep coming back until you learn and, for lack of a better word, graduate. Okay, I hope that helps. We've got another caller, so I'm going to move on.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Rahubat, greetings. Caller, where are you calling from? What's your name and what's your question, please?
Yeah, my name is Claudia. I'm calling from Florida. Yeah,
Greetings.
my question is regarding the wisdom teeth. I find that a lot of times the dentists are asking that we take off our wisdom teeth, right? And I find that's the only name, that's wisdom teeth is the only thing referring to wisdom that is really attached to your body. And I find it very close to the crown chakra. And for some reason, my spirit is not for it. I'm just wondering whether Wu-Sabat have any information regarding that.
Okay, while we're okay, so when it comes to health matters, obviously it's going to be on a individual circumstance and situation, and we're not really giving medical advice, right? As a disclaimer, but you're right that there are certain parts of your body that interact with other parts of you, which are very important. The wisdom tooth is one, and and the the appendix, your tonsils. There are many parts of you that interact and react with the brain. That this is why, in terms of like when people have problems with their teeth, they will put all types of metals and especially mercury into the teeth, which is going to affect the nervous system because your tooth goes into your nerves. This is why when people have problems with their teeth, like they have to numb it. They have to numb the gums and numb that interaction so you don't feel the nerves. But those nerve endings, they all, especially when you're dealing with your mouth is very important because a lot of like bacterias and things that we get sick from is through the mouth. And so yeah, so it is important. And but of course, if you're in a lot of pain and you need medical attention, then you have to make that decision. But I don't
Oh yeah,
know
yes.
in terms
Yes,
of
I agree. I agree. And I love the answer. It's just that I find too many family members who just, just regular people going to young people going to dentists and everybody's like, take off the wisdom teeth
yeah,
because it's too far in and you cannot clean it. And it's like, what? But
yeah,
it is there for a purpose.
yeah. I mean, but like I was saying, it's like it interacts when you start to look at the nerves, and this is why even like when I said about the mouth, this is why fluoride, for example, fluoride is put into toothpaste, is put into water, and you brush your teeth every day, and your teeth when they decay and have these cavities, right, and then it's the metals as well, like I said, like the mercury, these are all able to seep into your bloodstream and to seep into your nervous system, which interacts with your pineal gland, and that's one way of it being calcified, and then you lose that interaction or connection with the the energy source that comes from outside in. So yeah, it's a play on words, but it actually has a massive impact. Just the same way I was saying with like your tonsils, because all of these organs, they all react with your brain or your yeah, basically the higher parts of your mind and your brain, which if you take a lot of fluoride, then like I said, that will cut you off. And the mouth is such an important aspect of, because that's why people say things like you're what you eat, you're what you take in other words. And the metals in the mercury and other fillings that they use are very dangerous. And so we have to try and remove all those metals from our body. And the tonsils, again, they will just remove them when you have an issue with it. But
Yeah.
these parts relate to your higher being. Like when you in the water, you could breathe underwater, and you needed your, your tonsils and your appendix. These are things that help you to like levitate and do certain things that they speak of in the Bible and Quran and so forth as miracles, but they're really dealing with alchemy and the ability to how you transform yourself from one state to another. So it's a great question, and that's why
It's great, and also a great answer. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Was there someone else on there? No. Okay. All right. Let's actually take some of the questions in the comment section. Romeo, appreciate love your donation, and as usual, we're very grateful. Every little help does count. All right. Let's see what questions we have in the chat. Remember that you have to like to help us. Like, share, subscribe. Okay, Virgin Island. Rahubat Musa, much ashuk and peace. Free Dr. Malachi Z, your Wu-Sabat leads the way. Truth and facts, 100%. And all of us, I missed that question. All of us have to do our part. This is regardless of what walk of life you come from. We all know what truth is, and we know what we should anyway. We know what justice is. We innately know what's right, and we want everyone to do their part in helping to free the master teacher. And we're going to post the links in the chat of how you can do that in the comment section. All right. I did miss out Martha. Doctor, I asked, pray for my father, Pierre, who sees cancer. Okay. Yeah, prayer does have an impact in the sense of you can channel that energy and help somebody that needs it. All right. We've got another call. Rahubat, greetings, caller.
Sorry, hold on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, please. There's
Hello?
some greetings. Rahubat.
Sorry. Good day.
What's your name? Where you calling from? And what's your question, please?
Oh, okay. My name is Rosalind. I'm calling from Montreal, Canada. And my question is, if Jesus, the one that is being understood across the world, he actually didn't die on the cross, and he actually lived, and he died on a mountain, and I can't remember the complete story, but he was married and he had children. So that means that his descendants, he had some descendants left on the planet. And if his mother Mary and his real father, if we want to say that, is the angel Gabriel, and does that mean that he still has descendants on the planet? And the second question is, Dr. Malik, I'm sorry, I'm so nervous.
It's all right. Take your time. Malachi.
Papa Yunan.
Yeah, Baba Yanun.
Does he have a counterpart on the planet at this time, incarnated?
Okay. Thank you for your questions. Right. So that story that you relate, we have to remember that there are different aspects to stories that we talk about, right? So the reference may be as it's relayed in a book or as people know it. And so we may talk about a story and say, according to the Bible or according to the Quran or according to this. However, you ask a very, very important question. And that is why they made the movie called The Da Vinci Code, right? If you watch that movie, The Da Vinci Code, it's trying to trace the bloodline on the planet of who you're talking about. And so it's very interesting because in that movie, they tell you it's a female. And kind of what I'm saying is some movies, even though they may not have the actual facts, they still tell you the information in a way that will make you think, But yeah, to answer your question, there is a bloodline, and this is one of the reasons why when people give blood and give certain things, they think it's just about helping people that may need blood and so on and so forth. But there are banks that they look at blood, they look at DNA. People now sending their DNA to all these websites because they do try to find the bloodline on the planet of beings that are tied into our ancestors. And so, yes, to answer your question, that's very true. That's why it is very important in terms of when anybody pops up and says they're someone, they need to be able to verify who they are in terms of their bloodline. So when you mention like Dr. Malachi Z. York, for years people were looking and trying to figure out who this next person that's going to come along, known as the Black Messiah, and this is how they named it. Like you look at organizations that were specifically set up to look out for this. It's just like in the stories of Herod. You know, there are people who monitor the skies, they monitor, you know, things that happen on the planet. And there were organizations such as COINTELPRO who coined this term, the Black Messiah, to look out and try to stop many leaders that came up that had a lot of influence, etc., etc., etc. So it's a very real thing where part of the way we were taught by the master teacher, Pana Babyanun, was to cloak us in the sense of when we were being taken through the different schools, this was part of them monitoring to see who is that person that's going to be able to come and like really wake us up on a level and on a success level that's never been done. And when they thought it was only about religion, because whatever religion we went into, we were not accepted by those that were practicing that religion. So it was like, as we were walking backwards from Islam, we were not accepted in the Orthodox Islamic world. And it was the same when we were being taught, but they did not realize or know that we were walking back to our culture, Wu-Sabat. And when we got there, it's like no one could contest that. When we started to teach about our way of life that predates everyone, no one can really say, oh, that's not you. But we were not accepted in these religions, and it was just a school for us because we were studying and mastering it. And the only reason we still even mention or utilize religion today is because a lot of the people who are still stuck in them, we're trying to wake them up and get them away and get their souls to reactivate and realize that there's distortion and misinformation in these schools, and they're designed to, yes, to set you astray and take your soul. So you're right. I don't know if I've answered the question. If I haven't, you have to probe further, and then I will elaborate in anything.
Well, yeah, you have with the movie The Da Vinci Code, and I know that there is a chapel. I believe it's in Ireland. Supposed to be where the Templars hid some boxes or something like that. Anyways,
Right.
I find it interesting that that the Jesus that we understand was actually married and had children. Um, the other
Well,
the other
sorry,
thing,
the part of that I wanted to say. So even though we use the word Jesus, like you said, like these were ancient Egyptian, what people refer to as Egyptian anyway, people. That's why when you said the mountain, it wasn't actually a mountain, it was the pyramid, the step pyramid in Egypt, because like you said, the Templars, they helped once they knew some of the secrets because they were part of the plot to help him escape. And then he went by way of France and then ended up in Egypt and continued having more children and lived his life and died on top of what they call the step pyramid, and they was taken up. But that story is also, it's really referring to, that's why I was saying there are different ways of looking at a story. There's the actual literal story, there's the allegorical story, there's a symbolic story, because some things are passed down from generation to generation. And as you know, there will be Chinese whispers and things that distort a lot of the story to the point where the real story exists, going back thousands of years in terms of how it then got plagiarized and then ended up in religion, like the Hera, or who we know as Hera, or people know him by Greek terminology as Horus. So you get the Isis, Osiris, Isis, and Horus story, which is then distorted, and it becomes part of the monotheistic religions, you see. So yeah, this is why only some secret societies, there were you had to be initiated to be told the actual real facts about certain things, and you had to swear and hold secrecy. And this is why they went about trying to eliminate and get rid of all the Knights Templars. And if you studied that whole story, you're going to find a lot more information, as you say, tying it into, as you said, Yorkshire, etc., etc.
Okay.
But go ahead with your second part you were going to say.
The next question is a little bit further from that, but the Kundalini activation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of centers, sort of light working kind of people talking about this Kundalini activation. And I just wanted you to speak a little bit on the possible dangers of this. And is it possible to actually activate it? Can you go to some place in some center and have your Kundalini activated? Yeah.
Okay. Again, this is one of the things that, again, when things become popular, you get all sorts of distortion and different people saying this is now such a popular term, awakening your Kundalini. And like when you start to ask people to go into details, what do you mean? You know, you hear different types of information, just like the whole Anunnaki. Like everybody's talking about Anunnaki, everybody's an expert on Anunnaki now. But essentially, what we're saying, and the master teacher has taught us, is that you have these seats, right? You still there? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm trying to find something that I can read for you. But you have these seats or glands, and what you're trying to do is activate them. It's like imagine having a car or a plane with many engines, and you have to get full power, you have to activate all the engines. So if we look at those glands that people call the chakras, all right, which many people learn of when they start to deal with esoteric knowledge, or deal with kind of Eastern religions and so on, that they teach you about them, but they only teach you about the seven. And it's about activating them and raising that vibration, or turning them on, so that when you have all of them lit up or turned on or activated and aligned, you're able to then, each one, if you look at it like the next one up, it's a progression, and gives you higher, for lack of a better word, power, until you are able to turn them all on. The lowest one being the carnal one, which is depicted with the red, which is dealing with your lower vibrations, or lower animal nature, because you are also a combination of what people call a mammal or an animal, as well as being tied into your God side, or what people call the higher consciousness. So yes, you have these seats that, as you become more aware, you activate. They called it the Kundalini because of the way the DNA strand, right? But people refer to it as Jacob's ladder, like climbing up, because each one is moving up and higher in terms of its activation and vibration. So it goes all the way to the pineal gland, which is the one at the top or the highest, to the root seat. But we know, as being taught by the master teacher, Panda Babylon, that as 9 ether being, we have 2 extra ones. That's all in our fast track book as well, by the way. We have 2 extra ones that reside outside of the 7 and outside of the body, but they like magnetically, if I can use that word, so that it kind of gives a picture, magnetically attached to you if you're able to activate them all, and then you're able to actually start to have a bigger or better perspective, because you're able to start to use or get closer to using your higher senses. When I say that, meaning that until you're fully able to receive your barothry gland, you can't fully use them. But the thing is that you do have the remnants of when the barothry gland was removed, so you still have access to like telepathy, intuition, psychometry, and clairvoyance, you see. So I'm saying that to say that the more you're activated in terms of like you're open, you start to see more, you start to hear more, you start to feel more. And they also show you this in that movie called I always mix this movie up, the one where the guy takes the pills. Nah,
The Matrix.
nah, not that one. The one
Oh,
where
in-
it's not Inception.
it-
Inception is the one that's what I always mix it up. Yeah, Inception is the dream within a dream within a dream. There's another one.
or
No, it's the name actually explains that you know more. What's it called? Limitless. That's it. Limitless.
limit.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's I always mix Limitless with Inception for some reason.
Yeah,
but,
me too.
But if you watch Limitless, that's what
Okay.
happens when he takes this this pill that has been developed to help him activate, you know, his higher senses, and then he's able to be, because the whole, I don't want to spoil it, but the whole thing is that it was this guy that was going downhill, a loser, and then he takes this pill, and then he starts being so sharp and
Brilliant.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what they're trying to tell you. They tell you a lot of things in the movies. I can't find that image I was trying to find to show you, but or go through.
On that subject,
Yeah.
isn't it kind of unfair that the barotheric gland was removed and people are actually living out their lives like not understanding where, you know, one moment they can have like complete clarity and it's kind of like I use it as an,
Yeah, I hear you, but that's,
you know,
sorry, go ahead.
well, yeah, like it seems like the world is kind of playing catch up at this point with this information that they've been hiding from everyone, and not sincere souls that have been really trying to, you know, live as proper as possible, and then to come to find out that they actually did some sort of surgery on people's brains, and now people are walking around not really understanding why, you know, they could have a moment of clarity, of brilliancy, and then the next moment it's almost like it's been snatched away from their mind. And those same people go into the psychiatry and they get medicated.
Right. When we say it's unfair, it's like this is the whole point about not taking pearls and throwing them or giving them to swine. It's a what's the word? A parable, but it's like if you don't deserve it, then you're not gonna get it, because it comes with, like they say, great power comes with great responsibility, and some people abuse that power. So you have to be worthy or deemed responsible enough to receive it back. And for those who are ready, in terms of wanting to be living as what they're really supposed to be, which for, you know, gods and goddesses is a very kind of limiting term to use, but that's why when you say God, people think God is an unreachable, character or being, when really it's about you being the God, being able to tap into your godliness or your what people say Christ consciousness. But these are all terms that the secular world, they make things seem like everyone is able to get it. Everyone does. You get a yoga mat and you start doing yoga, and now all of a sudden you feel like yoga is just an exercise that you just go and do for the sake of it. But there are different levels of spirituality or attached to these things you're doing. So in order to receive, as you say, get it back, get that ability, you have to be worthy. It's like everybody can't be Superman. And if Superman was abusing his power, he's very careful. I'm saying this is what they depict in most of these superhero movies, is like he has to have this humility and humbleness, and he doesn't misuse his power, so he has to have the Clark Kent kind of like cover, and he only uses his power when it's necessary to maybe save somebody or whatever. So it's the same principle. Like, not everybody is worthy or deserves to have those powers because they will abuse them. But I found that diagram I was trying to kind of relate to you in regards to those 7 seats. So the material plane, or the first one, which is the lowest one that is shown in red, is superimposed on the glands, because some people say, oh, that you're just making these things up. But the prostrate and the uterus in male and female will be relating to that first one, the first seat. And then as you go up, the next one will be in your navel, or what they call the spleen. And that's deals with the plane of force. So the physical plane will be the bottom one, which deals with like carnal desires and lusts and all the stuff that are basically just like animalistic behavior and sexual kind of like, acts and stuff like that. And then you go to the third one, which is the one I was calling the solar plexus. This one is where you're starting to deal with more of the higher vibrations, like the spiritual plane. And then as we move up, you start to get to what are called the thymus gland, which is dealing with like what we call the soul and then mental. And then as you go up to the 5th one, you're dealing with your thyroid. That's the one like where your neck is. And then you move up to the one that they call the pituitary gland, which is starting to go more into like your third eye. And then at the top, that they call that the pineal gland. But then, as I said, we have 2 more as 9 ether above those, which the master has told us about, but hasn't really gone into great detail about. But we're learning more about that. You see, so
what color?
Sorry.
What color are the other 2?
Right. That's what I'm saying. He hasn't really expounded, but the thing is, as I was saying, with colors, they have variations. So even though you might be looking at the 7th as and that ties into the rainbow colors as well, where you say purple or ultraviolet, really, but there's subtleties in terms of the variations of that going further up, because each one is like a higher repetition of the 9, you see. So but yeah, he hasn't. But then again, that's another thing he explained to us, that he's going to start teaching us things that no one's going to be able to follow him on, or like be able to, like we used to say, go and check it out. Don't believe me, go and check it out. But when you start teaching about things that no one else is teaching on the planet, transmutation and levitation and what's it called, the other one, the teleportation, things like this, and like you say, a color that you've never seen before or heard like a description of before, how are you going to be able to check it out? This is why it's so important for us to get him home, and we have to constantly emphasize and reiterate the importance of us getting him home. But I hope that's helped you in some way.
That helped me a great deal. I really appreciate it. Can I ask one more question?
Sure. No one's calling, so Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So right now in America, if I believe, if I heard correctly, I was told through other people about a law that was passed recently through Trump for the indigenous people.
Okay.
Apparently, him giving them back the land or something. So my question is, when you talk about the fact of the continents separating, right, and that there were some Africans, Nubians or Negroids or Nuwapians that were actually already on the other side, and that the so-called the ones that we understand to be the indigenous people, they actually have land laws and they have a lot of privileges, being so-called the First Nation people. So wouldn't those original so-called slave descendants that have a birth certificate that says actually Negro on it, or colored or black, wouldn't they be, from what I'm understanding, when they use the word color and black on a birth certificate, that means that they were actually a mix with the other groups of Indians that were there. And why I'm saying all of this is that these people that are considered descendants, shouldn't they be claiming indigenous landmark masses or privileges underneath that birth certificate that says colored or black, or with this new movement with Trump where he's giving away land, giving people back their land? So apparently,
Yeah, you
maybe
said
that's too
you,
much. I don't know.
you said a lot, and one I don't know. This is it's actually funny. How can you give land to people who it belonged to in the first place? Is
I know it is,
how is
but
it your land to give back if it didn't belong to you in the first place? Number one. Number two,
well,
I'm not really like familiar with the actual whatever law or whatever that he's doing recently. But what we're saying is that the indigenous thing, it's every president that's come on, they talk about it, and they go so far, but then with the original indigenous people on the land, because this is what happened with us, as you know, where we were in Eaterton, Georgia, that was our land based on all types of evidence that was proved with the in fact we're gonna tomorrow in fact we're gonna do a really good live stream where we're gonna go into the land and talking about our indigenous, and you know, because that land that we had known as Tamaray, Egypt of the West, was literally our ancestors' land and was stolen. And when you start to look at what you're calling, you said Native Americans, which is a better term than American Indians, because, but then you have to go into who were the original natives that were on the land before, as you mentioned about the continental drift, etc. Those would be the Olmecs that were there before these beings came from the east, like dealing with the Chinese, that came in and mixed in with those original Olmecs to produce what people are calling Native Americans. But if you look at their features, look at their hair texture, they got hollow hair, they've got, because that's tying into these Chinese on the Chang dynasty, Sheng, that came over and mixed in. And like you can look at the Olmecs, the big head statues that people found, you can clearly see their big nose, big lips, their African features. And that's how you produce the Native Americans that people are calling Native Americans today, but they're actually Denisovan and Homo florensis. And the masters told us we were the first people to talk about all of what you're referring to in terms of, you know, when we went through been taught about being the originals as the United Nuwapian Nation of Moors. And when you start to study the Moors, you have different types of Moors. And the word Moors is even spelled differently. So what we're saying is that we've been down that road already of trying to let people know that, you know, this is our land, and we're indigenous. In fact, we're indigenous to the planet wherever you go. But yeah, as I said, I don't know what he's actually doing in terms of, as you say, giving back land. And but what we're saying is that there are certain parts and certain places where, yeah, those who can reclaim the land. But what we're doing is returning to a point way before that, as the Nuwapians, the original indigenous people on the planet. You see, so I don't really, like I said, I don't know the exact question you're asking, but because you said a lot, so I just wanted to touch on and cover some of what you said. But if you look at the state of America and with what's happening with the wars and this and that, and we've put out a lot of information relating to different parts of America that are not really going to be the best place to be, in terms of the things that we're seeing unfold. So I don't know if I answered any of I didn't really know what the exact question was in terms of, should people be fighting for the land, or should they be I didn't really fully understand your question.
Yeah, it was pretty much all over, but you answered it. You answered the question.
Yeah, I mean, as Nuwapians, we listen to, in terms of the guide and the warner that's amongst us and telling us where we should be, where we shouldn't be, what we should do in terms of to be, basically be here for the next new sun cycle, and to avoid any type of dangers and so forth, which is why it's important to come into the community and be amongst those that are working together to survive these things that are coming between now and 2030 that we've spoken about as well many times. All right. Okay.
Thank you so much, Wu-Sabat.
Wadu, you're welcome. Right. Let me take some questions from the chat because there are loads. Okay, let's where was I? I was.
Do you want me to play this voice note?
Is there a voice note?
Yeah, I don't know what it says though.
Okay, go on then.
Hi, could you tell me what the descendants are of the Native American Indians? Are the Chinese descent? Thank you.
I literally just answered that. But yeah, the continental drift, and people always say, how do you know this, right? If you look at the coast, if something splits and breaks off and it was once one, then the two sides will have the same things on either side. So when you look at like the trees and the things that are found on one side and you look at it on the other side, you will find that they actually have the same thing. The Olmecs literally walked over there, and what people are calling America is coming from two words, the Emirs and the Incas, right? This is what I'm saying about when you start to look at the Chinese that came and mixed with the Olmecs to produce what people are calling American Indians, or the Emirs and the Incas, right? So then you had other people coming over after from Africa, from different parts, once that became a melting pot. So yeah, so when you're saying that's where they come from, they mixtures, and they used to travel over to what they're calling Atlantis or Atlanta today, right? That's where the word Atlanta comes from Atlantis or Utla, which meant to vacate, or Atla, which became Atlantis. So you can find a lot of that in the Coming Forth by Day, this scroll here, and even in the let's set the record straight. We've got many scrolls. Have we got it up here? No, it's not there. But yeah, let's set the record straight. It's a very good book. Yes, yeah, this one here. But because of time, can't really go into too much detail. But this explains where everyone really comes from in terms of their descendancy, and yeah, in terms of like the beings that, like, if you know about Ben York, right? Because this touches on Ben York, because there was an expedition with Ben York, who was a very good navigator. I'm trying not to spend too much time on it, but you'll read about how these beings were able to navigate the currents and travel, the Guinea currents and the Canary currents. The Guinea current flows eastward along the Guinea coast with frequent cycles out to sea, where it joins the South Equatorial Current. But you'll start to learn about Abu Bakari and his half brother, who people know as Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa, who's known as the richest man in the world. But it goes on to talk about how the dynasties that came into what people are calling America, but there's a specific part I want to try and find and read you. Okay, here you go. So if I read from page 17, where the question is asked, who are the Idrisids, right? And it says the Idrisids were the earliest Islamic ruling dynasty of the southern Morocco and Mauritania, who came into Morocco before the invasion, because remember I was touching on the Moors, by the Dogon, the Malians and the Senegalese in 1727 AD. The Dogon tribe of Mali produced many early sailors, as previously mentioned, such as Mansa Khan Musa, who sailed over these shores in search of his half-brother Abu Bakari, who had the same father but different mothers. Mansa Khan Musa, who dropped Islam and sailed here to America in 1311 AD and mixed in with the Washito, the tribe as Olmecs, who were originally from Nuba, all right, before they tied into the vine. So when Abu Bakari, the half-brother of Mansa Musa, arrived on the shores of America, there were already Olmecs from Nuba of southern Sudan. Both men were known as Nubons, right? That's the original word for what became Nubians. The original 9 ether woolly-haired beings and not the Nubians, all right? The Olmecs are also referred to as rubber people because of the rubber plant. I was going to go into that earlier on, but they came here before the continental drift by walking here millions of years ago and setting up what is called today Atlantis, coming from the ancient Mitzrayim language of the Ashuric branch of Kushite language, and can be found in Arabic as Atlan, okay, from the root word Atla, which means, as I said before, to vacate, vacation, or travel to another place. So they named the place Atlan, which is jewel in Arabic, explaining one for South America, which became Amexim, right, from Hexion, and the other one Aksum, and one for North America, which was Atlan. And it shows you a picture of the Olmec heads that have been found, and with a picture of chiefs from Africa, you can literally see the features, right? Then this goes into where did the Nubons is spelled N-U-W-B-U-N-S, Olmec, come from? The Nubons or Nuwapians came from Nuba, a country in southern Sudan, which included Ethiopia, originally called Aksum, Uganda, and Kenya. They are the original 9 ether woolly-haired beings, descendants of the Anunnaki, right? In the Nubons language, and it goes on, but I'm just giving you that's where they came from, and they came over to what's called American. And then let me see if I can find and jump to the part where it talks about the Chinese coming over, and it goes on and talks about Christopher Columbus, who the Spanish that was trying to find, apparently trying to find India, and then discovered America with people already living on there. But yeah, this is a great source of information.
Page 60,
Page 60, thank you.
third paragraph.
Yeah, man. I've got my own personal AI in the house. Okay, so page 60, he says, third paragraph. Yeah, there you go. He says, now again, in the 4th century came some Chinese descendants of the Teros. We did a whole video of how the Teros, the Conehead, how the Chinese relate to them, but check that out. The Teros, who were looking for more land, they came over here under Husheng of the Shang dynasty, who were mixed in by now to the shores of America during an exploration in 459 AD. These Teros came into California and bumped into the Olmecs. They lived and mixed amongst each other and produced what became known as Native Americans. The Olmecians gave them the lower land South America, which became known as Amexem, which came from the word Hexian, which is just another name for Husheng, Ho Shen. The name Mexico comes from the word Amexem, and the word Texas comes from the word Mexico. So the northern region of the Olmecs became Atlan. All of their children were allowed to mix in with the Olmecs. The first offspring was the Hopis, who were given a rule not to mix their seed. And this ties into Happy and Hopi, and you can hear it's just the symbolic, just one letter that changes from Happy to Hopi. Yeah, so that goes on to talk about, this is mentioned that they shouldn't mix in the Abrahamic religion, Genesis 21, verse 1, 28 and 6, 28 and 6, verse 6, where he was commanded not to mix his seed with the Canaanites, because the Olmecs knew that the Hopi's genes were regressive. So the Hopi was chosen to create a mystic order that protected the original Dogon customs. This is why the Hopi to this day have the same exact rituals and ceremonies as of the Dogon. Yeah, the Nubas gave them secrets of the stars, which are held by the Dogons today, about the Sirius star constellation and the alignment that happens every 60 years, which is the Sigu. All right, I'm going to stop there, but lots of information in this, set the record straight, and other scrolls, all right, that go into that. All right, so let's keep going with the questions. Wow, got a lot of questions. Yeah, we didn't, Romeo's question, let's deal with that, because he donated. I'm not a Muslim, but have this question. How do Quran know about the Big Bang, but I think it means Big Bang theory? How did they got that knowledge before our time? Right, when you say before our time, and how did they get that knowledge? Islam is only 1400 years old, and the book itself is not original, right? As is the Quran, the Bible, not original. These are books that have been copied from older stories of older cultures and beings that existed before, like we've mentioned the Dogons, like the ancient Egyptian stories that talk about the Big Bang. So it's a copy. There's nothing in the Quran that is original and that you can't find in the books that came before, in like the what they call the New Testament or the Old Testament. Literally, there's nothing in there that you can't find. The whole prayer system, the images are on the walls in Egypt. And when you're talking about the Big Bang, you're talking about the story of the word atom, right? Atom in ancient Egypt, dealing with atom, where you hear phonetics, which became Adam in the religious world, but they're just superimposing stories that already existed. So there's nothing that the Quran is saying that is something like, as you say, how did they know about it? They knew about it because it's a copy from a copy from a copy from a copy. Even the Anunnaki speak about, you know, things that are now in the Bible and so forth. Because remember, Abraham is the patriarch of the three religions, or the three frogs. All right, so yeah, it's nothing mystical because it's just a copy. Maria Mandadu, thank you for your teaching. My question is, what happened to the Nok Empire? The Nok Empire. What's the Nok Empire? I'm not familiar with that term. Was that abbreviation for something? I'm just going to quickly Google it and see what if there's a. The Nok culture is a population whose material remains are named after the Ham village of Nok in southern, Kaduna state of Nigeria. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with in terms of what happened to it, but when you look at the when you study the word Nigeria, the place was created, but the original people tie back into what people refer to as Igbo or Yoruba, right? The original culture, and they're the same people in terms of going back to our ancestors. When we talk about the beings in ancient Egypt, or the Pataites, they all relate back to those people. So but in terms of the actual, I'll have to look a bit more into the Nok culture. But yeah, it says that it's a population that was in Kaduna state of Nigeria. But the Niger people, the word actually ties, back to the word, the derogatory term that people use today. Okay. Let's keep going. Yeah, remember, if you'd like a one-to-one with me, please just email the email on the chat, info@osmvision.co.uk, and we can get that booked and set up. Josie B, the essence of who you are remains in each fragment of the soul that you are, because you are not a complete soul. That's not really a question. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like sometimes people will add or try to add or give you their version or perspective of something that we are teaching. But if it's aligned, then we don't have a problem with it. But you do have half souls and full souls, and the soul. Yeah, so I mean, there's no question there, so I'm not going to dwell on it. Holy Spirit means the whole spirit that you are. Yeah, people are trying to give their own interpretation or like version of what we teach, but Rosalind, how do you regain your soul from baptism? Yeah, the first thing, that's a great question. The first thing is to renounce it. And when you come into awareness and know, you can basically start to come into Wu-Sabat, start to put the things we teach into practice, start to communicate with your ancestors, and start to get involved with the rituals that we do. Nothing to do with any kind of blood sacrifices, but it's the awareness, because it's like people that don't know what they're doing. Another way of putting it is like, when you're aware of something, you can then reverse it. If you don't know, then you're just going along blindly, not realizing that it has a major impact. It's like, don't look at the TV, which is telling you lies visually. Look into it, and you know what I mean, really like investigate and see what's happening. And when you do, you can start to break away by reclaiming and taking back, because it is about the utterance, right, of your intentions and your words, which then tie into how you get the assistance from your ancestors. Okay, I've covered that one. All right, let's go to Check Chaser. Where were we before, like, pre-birth and after death? What is the first step, or are we all in a cycle of reincarnation? The word, again, we, depends on who we're talking about. We come from an etheric state. When you say where were we pre-birth, the skin suit is designed for this environment. So you were either, remember the levels of realms, you could be in this realm as an orb that you haven't gone anywhere, but you get reborn when as a maybe what we say like a sixth ether being. You will only become an orb, and then you get reborn and you just recycle and come through that way. If you're of a higher vibration, then you would have been in a mental state, a spiritual state, and a soul state, going all the way to an etheric state. So when you say where were we before pre-birth, you were in those higher vibrations or realms. And after death, again, what is the first step? There's a master secret called the spiritual you after the physical you dies, and another one called the 24 elders that goes into details in terms of what happens when you, as you call it here, death. But we know that, as you said, energy doesn't get destroyed, so it's a transformation. It's a the ability to move on to different existences on different realms, and ultimately your journeys to return back to what we call Pa'ut, or the all expanding, or the all. Okay, so not everybody goes through the cycle of reincarnation. Originally, we didn't even do that. We used to come here and fulfill our purpose and go back and don't come back. Again, you can read those Patriarchs. I mentioned 30 spirits. You can read Soul, Spirit. That goes into detail. And of course, I've mentioned those other two, the spiritual you after the physical you dies. That's a master secret. And you can also read actual facts that deal with natural ether energy. That's one. And feeding the forces is another one. Okay. What Josie B seems to be giving a lot of her rendition. If you would like to start a channel, I'm sure you can do that. Yeah, I'm going to move to the questions. Why do people use sex as a weapon? Again, that's very broad. I mean, which people? And what do you mean by as a weapon? I mean, that's a very vague question. But sex is a force, isn't it? That, like I said, we got a part track called, if I can find it, that deals with, because, well, it is a weapon because it can have a major, yeah, this is the one I'm looking for. Sex force, spirit force, right? It's a force, and it can affect your whole genealogy, your whole being, because you are allowing the mixture of another person or other people's personalities and etheric energy into your being. So let me read a little bit for you then. So it says, I'm going to go from verse, this is Patrat, sex force, spirit force. I'm going to go from verse 9. It says, yet as, actually, hold on. I want to find the appropriate. But yeah, as I'm looking for it, I will continue. It's to do with the mixing of different personalities and spirit beings that can inhabit your being and take over. Now, because it's a force and it's to do with lust, and it's something that people can use. Verse 91. Okay, I saw a little bit on 68, but yeah, let's go to 91. I think I like this AI. This AI is it's on the ball. Okay, yeah, 91, verse 91 is actually perfect. It says, with their sex spirits of lust, they hypnotize the Kakasui to use as their lust slaves, and excited the females of that race, who in turn excited the males to rape other races. This is the whole Genesis chapter 6. And they were evil by their lustful nature, wicked. Genesis 6, verse 4 to 6. And it ties into, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. The same became mighty men of renown, and saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. Yeah, so I mean, I'm trying to, yeah, if I carry on a little bit, right, yeah, let me carry on, because it goes in to say that their God, or Gad, Hebrew Strong's 1408, tried to stop them, Leviticus chapter 20. It did not work. You see, wu-nuwapu, sexual intercourse was forbidden except for reproduction and with one's consort only. This was the law of Mitra, or Persia. They learnt so-called God of light, joy, love, and living co-guardian with Varuna, 96. So these human beings were called monks, or of the simians, and nuns, or of the amphibians, of the trees and the seas, 97. So they vowed not to have sex. So you have priests, monks, and nuns, sexual practices, 98. So their ancestors defiled sex with great orgy, secret sexual rites, wild parties, and unrestrained indulgence in any and all kinds of sexual activities up until this very day. 99. Called orgy from organ to swell climax. 100. Having defied the laws of Lawi Tanan'u, the sacred law, because it was used out of necessity only, not out of free lust. They had rules, 101, they had rules and regulations on birth control. You see, so it says, 102, it was the Halal'u, Luciferians, who brought lust into it, the Greeks and the Romans. Yeah, I don't want to read all of it, but basically sex is used as a force today to control people, because it deals with lust, it deals with you procreating at the wrong times, with the wrong energies, and bringing forth beings that just vibrate on 6 ether. And 6 ether is a very chaos oriented nature. All right, let me try and get through more questions, because I think, yeah, we've covered that. Ansar, that's a long name. I'm gonna, who's Prester John? Was he a real person? Prester John? No, I don't know who Prester John is. Thank life is a blessing. How can you? Okay, right. Let's move on. I can't read your full name. Asar Tamio Tony Rahubat Moisa Nafiratum. Okay. Yes, freed up to you. Our living Pharaoh. Malachi Zio. 100%. Wake up, everybody. Ain't no more stopping us now. Great, great, great. Fed up with the illusion of 666. Tour. All right. Josie B, are there two creators, the creator of the flesh and the creator of the souls? This word creator is a very misleading term because to create means to grow, and your creator is literally your mother and your father. They both are responsible for creating your flesh and your soul, which I broke down earlier on. You know, you got the soul from your father and the what you're calling the spirit and the flesh. The flesh is from this atmosphere, from the dust. This is why they, in the biblical, they couldn't really explain it. So they just said, God took the dust of the ground and formed a man. But the dust is in the elements. When you're breathing in dust particles that are in the atmosphere. We all breathe these dust, and as a female, when you're pregnant, most females will suffer from sinus problems, but that's during that time where they're taking in this dust that goes and becomes part of the bacteria that forms what we call the flesh or the body. Okay. Again, that question of what about dental implants? They're more health, not them, but there are other more healthy alternatives than to have metals. So people will use different things, like pure gold is the actual best thing, but again, that's obviously more expensive, etc. But we're not giving medical advice. You have to seek professional medical advice from those that, you know, are practitioners. How can you tell, Pharaoh Halo, how can you tell if you're of the bloodline without going to the ancestry websites because they can't be trusted? You said of the bloodline, of which bloodline? And we say, yeah, you have to be specific of the bloodline, because you're supposed to actually go to people, trusted people within the family. We have people that are experts that work with blood analysis and can check and do things for you that you know, you can find out your blood type and find out many things through your blood. Yeah, so I would say within our community we do have specialists that are blood, you know, they're very learned in that field. What happens, Tammy H? What happens you are baptized as a young child? How does that affect your adult life, United States? This is why we're saying that Wu-Sabat is the answer. Come in and you will be taught, and like I said, you can renounce and change and take on a new way of life. Okay? Because as a child you didn't really have any control or say in the matter. Probably it was your parents that got you to do that. So it's not really your choice. You can't be held accountable, but at the same time, you can come in and everybody talks about being born again, and this is what they do. That's how they are able to get you to commit your soul to them. So you just have to be born again in Wu-Sabat. What is it when I see a grid of light in front of me at all times? It looks like a honeycomb. We don't talk about your personal experience, Mac Main, in terms of what you're seeing. I mean, it could be anything, but there are things like the Master has explained. You know, you may be seeing entities or beings in other dimensions and stuff, but I'm not going to start speculating on your specific situation. With, you know, have to get to know you and know what's going on. It could be a health issue. Well, I'm trying to find questions. Okay, we covered that. Why are we unable to access the earlier Earth universes where we also exist? Again, people say the we word a lot. Why are we? Everyone speaks like in general terms or putting everyone, but different people have different experiences and are able to do different things to others. And when we say Earth universes where we also exist, we have been, you know, given information to do with other where you do exist on, you know, other parallel universes and so on. So it's not everyone that is not able to do that. Trying to find questions. This is why you have to connect to your ancestors and the beings that have already crossed over. When they cross over, they get an orientation in that spirit world, and then, you know, they're able to then reach out to you, and you have to know how to connect with them or reach out to them. How are ETs our future self? Well, we say ETs, but we know there are different types of extraterrestrial. Not every extraterrestrial is our future selves, because there are many, like you say, hybrids that do not have a soul. But we're talking about which ETs are we talking about? Our ETs that we're referring to. And I saw a question earlier on, somebody was asking about the 3 Riskians. I'll come back to that, but our ancestors are related to us, not these, as we said, these what you're calling like the beings that don't have souls, the ETs that don't have souls. Those are like the greys and the hybrids and beings that were basically like for example, they're like extra biological entities, so they're not really like, they're like probes or beings that were utilized to go. You see, like how when, say, NASA wants to check out if there's life on Mars or on the moon, and they will send probes and send. It's like they like these ones that I'm referring to. They're like in more advanced, intelligent robots, if you like, right? Who are able to live and go to any atmosphere. So we're not talking about those ones when we're saying our future self. But in terms of the physical body, right? If you study, let's say, men or people years ago, they were bigger, taller. They wore, like the master teacher explained to us, they used to wear bigger size shoes, bigger size blazers. But over time, based on the atmosphere, we're shrinking. And so in that respect, if the atmosphere is bad, or like if you don't use certain aspects like of your body, like for example, people don't use certain parts of their fingers, and so not many people can do this, where, I don't know if you can see that, but you can put your fingers down and lift one finger, especially the ring finger, right? Try doing that exercise. Put your fingers on a table and try and lift up just your ring finger, yeah, like that. It's not an easy thing to do, and so that shows you that if you don't use certain parts of your body, they stop working. And people who play like the piano or musicians, they will be able to do that. Let's see if I can do it on this side. It's not easy. You have to really think about it. All right, here it goes. See, it's quite hard. See, now I'm thinking about it. I can't do it. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. That's what I mean by if you don't use it properly, you lose it. That's what they say. But so the master was explaining to us that we're shrinking in size, and the chemicals and the things in the atmosphere will mean that, for example, you look at babies. A lot of babies get born and they now have bigger eyes, and they look like greys. But it's not to say that we're literally going to be those same greys, because they're different species of grey. But if you look over the years, you see that people are shrinking in size and becoming more mental, because if you're using more of your mind in the time period that we're in now, because for years most people were dumbed down, they weren't using their mind and their brain. So if you start using it more, it will grow and develop, so you start to have more of a bigger head. I'm just trying to say how it relates to what you're saying in terms of how we are transforming. Where were we? Oh yeah, the person that was asking the question about the names of the three Riskians, you can find that on if you go to the United Sabians Worldwide.com website. Okay, go to the home page and then click on the ask Yanun any question, or click to get your questions answered, or click the picture of Yanun, right? It will take you to another page which says Q&A with Yanun, and you can click, if you scroll down, you see an image with two eyes called Unto Us a Savior is Born. Click on that blue link. It will open up the page that I was reading from, okay? And if you look down, you will see on page, I think it's page 4, it shows you those three Riskians. Does it have the names on there? Yeah, if you read through that, it tells you they basically introduced themselves and gave their names. Yeah, there you go. On the next page, it talks about they were Zanun. Yeah, it says, okay, the first one was Razun, and the second one is Zanun, and the third one was Zakun. Yeah, you find that on page 5, where it shows you a picture of Risk with the three sons. Yeah, so that's to answer that question for you. But yeah, read the whole of that. It's a very interesting read. All right, let's go back to the questions. Pharaoh Haluk, with all due respect, I'm asking my questions for the show. Most family was forced into slavery, so we cannot go all the way. All that was back past 400 years. Okay, I think that's the response to someone. Tammy H, welcome to Team OSM. Yeah, you become a team member. I'm trying to find questions. There's a conversation, a lot of conversation. Okay, Yellow Woman, watching from France. Do you have any books in French that I could order and read to know more about Wu-Sabat? No, there were some books. I know there are some books in Spanish, but this is something that we need to work on. And anyone that is a good translator, this is what we say. We need all skills. People can help and work and get in touch with the center and help and work and translate books into different languages so that other people who don't have English as their first language can also get the the knowledge of Wu-Sabat. Okay. No, James Lee. Where did all human individual personalities or conscious come from? And do we keep the same personality in every reincarnation lifetime? No, you don't. And every individual person, when you say personality, you can actually hear the word person. It's your person. You get that personality from your ancestors, which I mentioned the 30 spirits speak about this, you see, because it's about your DNA and how you are. Trying to see if the diagram is in here. Your personality is, we read that earlier on in terms of your spirits. No, the diagram's not in this part, all right, but yeah, your personality, we read it in Soul Spirit, which if I can find it again quickly.
What is it?
Person, he wants to know, how do you get your personality? Is that the time already?
Is it like a spirit personality?
Yeah.
82.
Okay. I'm gonna have to give my AI a name. Siri's been taken. 82. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so it says there is also a counterpart to the Ka'a spirit called Nafas, spirit personality, and it is the essential character, gender. It is formed after birth and it grows with each person as they develop their own ways. You see, the Nafas can destroy you by moods, depression, or actions. Your personality affects your whole being inside out and outside in. So there are two souls and two spirits linked to your khatat, physical body or the physical you. You see? So it goes on. Now, lest you forget, Nuwapians, that both genders are mistakenly called mammals, warm-blooded animal, yet mammals breastfeed their young, that carry their young on the inside. So in fact, that would be the female, the woman, the mother. She needs to shapeshift into another person. So a child of youth, out of whichever age, so she uses her chromosomes to regress in age. This is why you say she looks fresh and better while pregnant, because she's shapeshifting. Now the male human being, he does not do these things. So in fact, it is not really a mammal by those definitions. Yeah. So that covers your spirit personality. All right. That's what I was saying about the spirit. Yeah, so we've just covered where that comes from. And no, you don't keep the same personality in every reincarnation, because when you reincarnate, you're reincarnating through a different set of parents. So that female will be the one that is doing the same of providing you with that personality. Veto Vivid, does Wu-Sabat have any information on the Zulu tribe from South Africa, and what is the relation between Adam's calendar and the Egyptian calendar? Well, Adam's calendar is really dealing with the Adamites. We've got a live call, so I'm going to have to pause and go to the live caller.
Hello? Sorry.
Rahubat,
Rabat.
what's
I
your
have
name?
another question.
Sorry, who's calling, and where are you from? Calling from, and what's your question, please?
My name is Rosalind. I'm calling from Canada.
Okay, Rahubat, go ahead.
Yeah, on the subject of the spirit and the soul, one of your lectures, you were speaking about the fact that the mother, you received the spirit from your mother and your soul from your father.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're speaking on the subject of two spirits and two souls.
Mm-hmm.
So which one of those spirits come from the mother, and where does the second spirit come from?
Oh, they both come from the mother. It's like describing the differences between them. So, and the soul, like we said before, that when you say the soul, you're dealing with one, the breath, and then the other one dealing with your emotion, the emotional you. So, if you go back to the soul, spirit part of that, it just gives you, like, as I said, the two would be the ba'a, soul, and the rawa for the two souls, and the spirit being the ka'a and the nafas. So both of them, if you read what it says about them, as we were just going into on page, was it 90, on verse 92? No, it wasn't that one. Give me a moment to see if I can find it.
What's it about?
There's two spirits. But yeah, as far as we've been taught, they come from the mother. But actually, no, there's
Page one.
say that again.
Page one.
No, we can't cover that already. No, you're right. I've just remembered something where I can't remember where the reference is though, where the master is saying like
41.
no, there's something I'm trying to recall where he was saying like the two, one comes from like your ancestors or like I can't find, but let me read what it says on this one. But I will try and find that quote. Are you in our Telegram group?
Yes.
Okay, I may have to find, there's a reference that it's not coming to me at the moment, but if we go to 45, it says we look at Paka'a, called the spirit. No, is that what you just said? 45. You got, it's bugging me to try and find that quote for you now that I'm trying to remember, but I will put it in the Telegram group once I find it. Where it's explaining that you got like the one from your mother and father, but then you've also got the one that come from your ancestors that have crossed over, and then you got one that comes from the Natharu, but I just can't recall the reference.
Okay, so the ancestors, you're talking more about your immediate ancestors.
Yeah,
like
your immediate ancestors. Yes, 4 generations.
Right.
Is there any other student teachers on the chat?
No.
Okay, but yeah, I'm gonna find that because you've asked a great question, and it bugs me. It bugs me when yeah, she can try, but it bugs me when can't recall or find something, so I make it a duty to find it. So I'm gonna do that and put it in the Telegram group for you.
What should I say?
Okay.
Um,
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But yeah, I can't find it. There's a bit where the master actually speaks about. Let me see if I can remember where that is.
Is that very interesting? I find with this new family structure, so many people are, disconnected from their fathers or the other, right? So they grow up with just their mother. They don't know their fathers. And the fact that you're saying that the soul comes from the father and then the spirit comes from the mother. So in the case where there's people that are basically raised by their mothers, they don't have the presence of the soul, the father. So I find that interesting when I see the behaviors of different people, without a father, or when the master teacher was speaking about the fact that the so-called African Americans have a half soul.
Yes.
So I find that interesting that a lot of those people were raised just by their mothers.
Because they're not present or not around, doesn't mean that they don't have it. But as you say, it plays an important part. This is why the master, encourages both parents and both male and female to be present, because, as you say, the system is designed to separate and divide us so that you don't get both balance in terms of having both parents. And this is why, if you read the Gospel of Yanun on the Sacred Feminine, it starts to go into the details of how important that is to have both male and female.
There was something in the prism.
No, it doesn't ring a bell. It doesn't ring a bell.
I wish I had like that. Oh my God.
So you wish you had what? Sorry.
I'd love to have a library like that. Oh my God, I love books.
Yeah. There's so many. I don't have so many books, and some of them they've walked away when I've lent them out to people. So I will find that reference. I can't recall what it is. It's something I was reading quite recent. Let me see. I don't think it'll be in this. Yeah, I think it's more on the Master Secret. But we found something else in the prism that might help. Let me see. Yeah, this is quite good. Let's read. Let me read from. I'll read from 76. It says, referring to the woman, she's the deity of the house. The father XY supplies the soul, breath, rawa, in the damam, in the blood, through his manam, sperm. The mother, 78, the mother XX supplies the spirit person, nafas, in bone, as them. They supply the flesh, right? So again, we already covered that the mother supplies the spirit and the flesh, which is jasad. And then 79, it says, and the ka'ah, spirit, and ba'ah, soul. And yeah, I think this is it, you might have found it, you might have hit the jackpot, yeah. And the ka'ah, spirit, and ba'ah, soul, and arkak, ether, is from the Salafu ancestors, linked to the Natharu overseers. Yeah, this is what I was looking for. My AI is on point. So if you can get hold of the prism, I don't know how you did that. That's amazing. I was trying to remember this exact quote, because it explains here that you have the Ka'ah, spirit, and the Ba'ah, soul, and the Arkak, ether, is from the Salafu, which is your ancestors, linked to the Natharu, the overseers. And then it goes on to 80 to say, all this is in the 9 moons or 3 periods of the gestation period by the rules of nature, and it's inherent. And the word inherent is inherent, because the mitochondrial DNA and the nuclear DNA and the records of genetic family from the beginning, which is, you know, the woman being able to pass that from female, from to her female offspring, and then she passes it on to her female offspring, and so forth. Yeah. So
what about
there's
what?
also another update. But go ahead. There's another update as well, which ties into when it's talking about the soul and spirit being outside of your body as well. That's linked to, I think that's linked to those two extra chakras that we spoke about previously. But go ahead, I'm going to try and find that as well, and if we find that, that would be great as well to tie into this.
So what about if you have a premature baby, and it doesn't go through the 9 months of castration?
When you say what if, what do you mean? As in, does it have a soul?
Like if a child doesn't go the 9 months of
gestation, yeah, it's premature, but it's still it's being premature. Doesn't mean you don't have things. It just means they're not fully developed. It's like a premature baby will still have like both limbs, arms, and legs, and so forth. It's just that they come out, you know, a lot smaller because they haven't fully developed, and they may be put in an incubator to help them then develop, and with assistance from not being, you know, going through the full term. But they'll be slightly underdeveloped until they, you know, they grow into that. But it doesn't mean they don't have it. It just means that it's not fully developed.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
How do you say thank you again?
Tawutak.
Tawutak.
Yeah. I found another little piece in the prism which I want to quickly share. And it says on page 11, verse 128. Okay, 128. Is it still there?
Yeah.
In fact, let me go from before that, because I was explaining about the soul and the part of the breath, and it says that it says all this means from 125. No, 124. Okay, 124. So it's a combined factor for burning. Therefore, without this condition for burning, there can be no physical life. 125. All this means that physical life cannot go beyond the physical mawat, death of a person. 26. Because there's no condition outside the physical body that can continue the burning for a person. So I was talking, that deals with the burning of taking in the oxygen and the burning to breathe. So in fact, when the burning stops permanently, the person loses all links to the body of the physical feelings and consciousness, and that is the end of physical life. 128. As life is active principle of the existence of animals and plants and humans. 129. Now, a person's ba'a, soul, is their higher than physical life being. 130. And the head of the ba'a soul is the archar, the ether. 131. And with the ba'a soul, emotional seat, you have ka'a, spirit, life, or living. All is linked to the mentality, meaning the mind. The breath of life, rawa, on another levels, and personality of life, nafas, spirit personality on another level. There's more than one kind of soul and spirit. All right, that's where I'm going to stop there, but great question. Is it? I think that is this charge? I don't know if you can still hear me, but I can't really hear you anymore at the moment.
Yeah, there was something going on with my phone, and it
Okay.
cut completely
You're
with
back.
the speakerphone,
Yeah.
everything. So I didn't hear any of that.
Oh, It's on the. You can watch it on the video because I've got a lot of other questions to try and get through.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And
What?
athir afu. Okay. Let's see if I can get more questions in. I'm trying to find. There's a question here. Do you think that the first incarnation is the most important because most of us have come here too many times? I can't say what I think is that. I don't recall the master saying that the first incarnation is the most important. However, you can reason it out to say if you came and fulfilled your purpose and then left and didn't have to come back, then that would reason out to say the first one is the most important. But then if there are certain things you have to learn in order to move on that you haven't learned, then I guess that's why you have to keep that's why you keep incarnating until you master the realms, the lower realms, and learn those lessons so that you can move on. I don't know if that's a question, but I've just read from the master's word, not my words, that I mean, if someone's gonna quote something from, if it's from the master, it'd be great to give the reference so that we can check it out, because we can get into a thing where different people are just saying different things in the comment section. So it can get confusing to newcomers. So I would say seek out the scrolls from Partner Babyanun and read and find the answers yourself. I've actually got to the end of the comments. Oh, cool. I read from the scroll, the proof by way of Partner Babyanun, page 33. That's great. That's a good quote. I don't think I have it at the moment. Okay, I mean, unless there's a question that you've seen that I've missed or any, we've got 15 minutes left. All right, let me see if I can find the proof and then read that quote, see what the brothers or sisters saying. The proof, have you got it there?
The proof.
Yeah. No, it's actual fact, the proof by the master teacher, by way of, I might have it here. Let me just grab it. I'm sure I've got it here somewhere. Yep, got it. You haven't got it? Okay, right, let me just get the page you were saying. The proof by way of the master teacher. Page 33, verse 133. Page 33. Okay, here we go. Right, he says from verse 133. So, in fact, I'll go back a little bit before and read from 131. It says, and the Caucasoid, who are called Yarapu, Europeans of two genetic traits, the Hamir, red, and the ruddy race of Adamites, and the Laben Salau, white race of Leper Canaanites, has 6 species and 6 ether. The last 2 Adamites, the ruddy and the Canaanites, white, are diseased and plagued and seek your yakasat, genes, to offer your soul, your ba'a, soul, to their demon deity Pan. This is what I was saying earlier on about taking your soul to offer it to these deities. 132. So you have to sayun, protect your DNA from them. 133. So you, this is the verse the brother's quoting. So you must, if I think it's a brother, you must, as Nuwapians of Wu-Nuwapu, teach your youth the importance of your DNA and the upcoming Vanastasu, feminine, her yakas at genes, her genome, her DNA. Don't confuse 134. Don't confuse this with our Zazastatu, women of the West, who have lived in the image and like the Adamite women who had exchanged katat body fluid before marriage or had more than 3 ayashu males to form married or not. 135. They have taken in all the males Yakasat genes and their Salafu ancestors back 4 generations, both mental and physical, sane and insane. All is taken in. I'm just seeing where he wanted us to read. Okay, to 169. Wow, that's a lot of reading to get to 169. So you may have to read that for yourself because we've only got just under 10, just above 10 minutes left.
Do you want to show the camera they can pause it? Show the camera they can pause the video to read it.
Is it? Okay.
They have to do that in their own time.
Okay, where did I start? Okay, let's go on then. So we're gonna try and get it so you can pause it and read it yourself. Have to do the other 3 pages. Yeah? And this one has already got that? Okay, the last one. Okay, that one. Okay, great. All right, so you can pause it and read the rest of that. I'm not sure if that was relating to the question because that was more dealing with the DNA. Yeah, but obviously your DNA is important in terms of offspring and what you're passing on. So, all right, cool. Let's see what else we'll be able to squeeze in before we shut down for today. I don't know if that question is for me. Are you speaking the same language that avatars were speaking in the movie? I don't see if that might be a joke. I don't know if maybe he's speaking with someone else. All Star Truth says, I believe you study, but I don't think you have the supernatural experience. Can you tell us how you know God is real? God is a made up term. When you say God is real, it depends what you call God and what you know of God or what you're breaking down as God. God means different things to different people. You're saying, I know you're not trying to be funny, but when you say God, that's what I'm saying. Like, what is your interpretation of God? When you say, can you tell us how you know God is real? Well, if you look at the creator that created you, that's your mother and your father. So they're real. Because the fact that you're real and you come from them, it's a fact that they're real. And they can then do the same thing you do, which is to say their mother and father are real and they're the ones that created them. So if you're coming from a religious perspective of the word God, then are you relating to the Bible when you're saying that? Because that's English and that word goes to the German word Gott or to an acronym, Goma, Oz and Dabar, wisdom, strength and beauty, which is what the Mason would use in that term in terms of the word God. So it all depends on what you're saying. Can you tell us how you know God is real? I know God is real because I am God and I'm here and I can pinch myself and prove that I exist, and anybody can do that. So the term is it's a very limited term. No joke, that was a serious question. What were you speaking? Okay, I don't.
When you said goodbye.
Oh, the language. No, that's our language, Miss Batea, known by many names such as Sabaik, Nuwapik. You know, depending on what culture you're coming from, and it's the spoken language to the scripts that are known by many as the hieroglyphics on the walls of Egypt, the pictorial drawing, which are actually a spoken language with different scripts, or the cuneiform that people know from like the Sumerian tablets. Oh, you feel it in my soul. Yeah, that's our language. This is something that we all have to learn, and we use some of the basic words like rahubat, which means greetings, and wadu for bye or thank you, you know, depending on the phrase we're using. But that's our language that we should learn. And there's a book, if you can get hold of it, called The Language of Time, which is this scroll here. In fact, I think that would be a great point to end on. I'm going to read how important this is from just the introduction. It says, you are regaining that knowledge by way of Parnatharu, the overseers, by way of myself, Parnabab Yanan. Now, Parnatharu, the overseers, have given you all a way of guidance, Partarat, the way, to align your akal, mind. Oh man, okay, I was just getting into that. I will finish it, but we've got a caller, probably the last caller for the day. Caller, what's your name, where you calling from, and what's your question, please? Is it gone?
Yeah.
All right, they might call back. Let me continue. I'll go back. It says, the overseers have given you all a way of guidance, Partarat, the way, to align your akal, mind, to the sound, right reasoning. The akal mind of today's world only reflects detriment, derelicts, debauched and perverted fakar at thoughts. Dawad, evil, has truly been made fair seeming, and the forms of entertainment is a reflection of that demented or diminished mentality, showing the lack of creativity of these disagreeable beings, whose objective is to keep you from becoming divine, which you will return to as it is with natural nature. We've got a call back?
I think the speaker's not working.
Okay. Yeah. Greetings, caller.
Yeah, Rahobat there, second. It's T from London.
T, Rahubat, you've been on my mind. I've been thinking about you this week. I was going to give you a call today, in fact.
Okay, it's good to hear from you still.
Likewise. Yeah. Go ahead.
Right. I literally caught the live a bit late because I was just doing some bits and pieces, but I've caught it like where I could, so I'm listening, yeah. So I just wanted to say, yeah, I'm not sure if you can if you actually speak to like the master teacher, maybe by phone call sometimes, or like his family and stuff, but I just wanted, if you do get to speak to him, I just wanted you to let him know. I think you say, is it Tawatak? Mm-hmm. Thank you for the kind of thing that he's helped us with. And just thank you for, in general, for even thinking about us, basically, and trying to help us to evolve and be better beings, basically, because the information that I'm listening to is really good. And like I said, you have a lot of information and answers, and I'm even blown away, really. When I just listen, I'm like, wow, like just sitting back and just taking this in, even if you're religious or not religious, when you just listen, like literally you don't have to have any kind of perspective, just listen to the information being spoken from callers in and, you know, how you answer the questions and stuff. It's like, it's really nice. Like, I don't know how to put it. It's really together. And the master teacher, you said he's written these books. He's presented this information. It's from him. You even say when people call in, like, it's not your words. It's from the master teacher. So you're quoting what he said. So basically, I just wanted to say, if you get to speak to him, just let him know that there's people out here that really appreciate what he's done. And thank you very much, Tawaka.
And Takathia for. Yeah, and what you can do to help is just relay those messages in the comment section and or in the Telegram group so that we can get those to him, because he loves to hear how his words are having an impact on people, you know, out here, and the questions as well. You know, the questions we ask help him to give us more and to elevate us. So most definitely, like, we will pass that on, but it's even better when you write it down in the comment section so that we can copy and just send them to him. And we always encourage people to, you know, let him know how they are feeling, what it's doing to them in terms of their life. And sometimes we forget, as you say, just to give thanks, you know. So yeah, we appreciate you calling in for that. But I'm gonna try and finish this. This last page. But yeah, hope to see you soon again in the store, because there's stuff I wanna.
Yeah, I'll come through, man. I'll be up there at some point. So you know me, I'll just drop in like and then we just see what's going on. So that's cool.
No problem.
Like I said, the message was just really just to sort of say, like, thank you, man, literally, because it's very helpful. It's helping to clean up enough of us if we listen, if we take it on board and just, you know, then like you said, if we live it, even if it's just one book, you get it and you read it and you just take it in, absorb it. It may not make too much sense to you. Some of it may not. But over time, you keep reaching back to that book, get more information, and you keep on, like, you know, reading and stuff, and it helps you to kind of see where you sit in between all that information, and then you kind of get to see where you sit and where you are. Some of us are kind of way forward, and some of us have got work to do, but we've all got work to do in our own way. But the teaching is very valid still. I just wanted to say thank you. Let him know that, please. I beg you. I'm blessed.
Thank you. And we'll definitely pass that message on to the master teacher. And you said something, I'm definitely going to finish this one page because it ties in, but you said something that is so important. What most of us are sick, right? Based on what we've been exposed to for the last 6,000 years. And you have people who know, you have people who don't know, and then you have people who don't know they don't know. And all they have to do, honestly, is read and study what the master is teaching. But the reason we're able to say to people, like, look, we're all sick, is because we were once sick and we were looking for the medicine, and we found the cure, we found the medicine. It worked on us, and we're now saying to others, look, even though we're not fully cured, we're also in the same boat that we're in the same boat you are in now. And all we can say is, look, here's a medicine, take it or not. Some choose to take it and they start healing. They start talking like yourself, giving you, you know, their own view, their testimonies in terms of how it's, you know, helped them. So, you know, Wu-Sabat we're just here to point you to the master who has the cure. And like you hear the saying, you can take, I don't know if it's a horse or a donkey or whatever, I never get it right, to the river or the stream, and and you can't force them to drink. So everyone has the opportunity and they choose to, you know, drink of the fountain or not. But let me just read this and we're going to round off because we've even gone over time a little bit already. Right, so I was on, saying evil has truly been made fair seeming, and the forms of entertainment is reflection of that demented or diminished mentality, showing the lack of creativity of these disagreeable beings whose objective is to keep you from becoming divine, which you will return to as it is with natural nature. That is who you are. They know this and do everything they can to prevent you from returning to your natural nature, which would lead to rebirth, right? The Siam, divine you. You must return everything that is not naturally for you and to you and give it back. Give everything back to them and reclaim your own, your true self. Your language, wu-nuwapu, nuwapu. Your own land, nuwapu. Your own way of life, wu-nuwapu or Wu-Sabat. Your own masak, music. Your own hazab, culture. Your own dress, even the fabric you wear. Everything gives off a vibration, color, sound, or tone. All of this affects the tone that your khatat body naturally vibrates at and does alter what is natural to you. So if your body vibrates on F and you are constantly exposing your body to another note, higher, more pitchy, it will affect your khatat body down to the molecular level. The very cells of your body can be altered. You must return to your own to become the divine you again. Those who have not made this shift will be left behind. Those left behind and the mentally dead and the mentally dead will be food for the gods in the very literal sense of these words. The beings who have gained control of this Mikhab planet and their offspring are preparing for a departure as well, yet have secured food for their journey. Theirs and those of you who choose not to love yourself and have not only sought to live in another's image other than your natural own, yet have given up what they no longer have and have lost long ago, their ba'a soul. It is the emotional body, the nashat energy in motion, which will propel your ka'a spirit to the next plane where they cannot go. You know, I'm going to stop there, but it's very important for us to learn the language. We've gone over by a bit of time, which is fine. I'm just going to round off by saying that, you know, if you want to help with the Master's freedom, then give a free will offering to the acts of kindness, okay, at outlook.co. We're going to post it in the comments, and also, you know, help with the projects that we're working on, which will help us to build and grow and come together to literally live Wu-Sabat by way of our actions. So yeah, we're just going to post the links in the chat and then leave that for today. And for anybody who is really about, because we get people, we want to thank everyone, no matter how small what you do is. You may not think it's important, but it's very important. But you know, you get people all the time. We've met all kinds of people in this journey, you know, people who talk, people, we've met them all. We've met Moses, Abraham, Jesus, you know, people that claim to be this and claim to be that. And at the end of the day, there's no point, there's no ego. Just do what you can to help. And people who literally are just sincere and do their best, they're studying, they help, you know, just be yourself. Because the same people that say, you know, I've got money, I'm a millionaire, I'm this and I'm that, and they say they can help when you actually put them to the test. We've seen many, many people come and go, but it's all about just doing your best and helping where you can. And like I said, just do what you can. Every little helps. Oh yeah, I see my brother's already posted how you can help. And also I'm about to post for those who want to help with the projects we're working on. Yeah, it's right there. All right. So yeah, on that note, we're going to say Tawakum, thank you all, Wu-Wadu, and bye. Until next week, same time, same place. OSM Vision, the only channel that lets you know your soul matter and our souls matter. All right, Wadu.
Proper black history. You won't get it nowhere else at all.
Islam is a beautiful religion for the Muslims. Christianity is a beautiful religion for the Christians. As Sabaeans, We have our own culture, our own scriptures, our own way of life, which is Wu-Sabat. Wu-Sabat is not a religion, it predates religion. So we don't really subscribe to like the monotheistic religions. And even when you get to Africa, you know, people might talk about Egypt or Kemet or these various names, but our ancestors, they actually go back to the stars from the Orion and Sirius constellation.
In the Bible, Genesis, Adam and Eve,
Yeah.
what color were they?
He was a Hindu. Adam was from Atum and Lilith. Those were his parents. We've got their pictures in our scrolls as well. So how do we get pictures? As 9 ether beings, we can travel to different times. We can go backwards in time and forward in time. We can go into different dimensions. We can be channels. I have watched many false teachers pass. I have watched churches who has come not to change the books, but to untangle and straighten and put them in an order that can be read and understood by any and all. No one in the heavens above or below the earth or under earth has the ability to make all of the true untampered scriptures, which are the words of the Most High, so clear. For I do not speak from myself, but the words flow through me from the very lips and hearts of those mentioned in the pamphlets I put forth. Read the scrolls. Don't reject me. Don't deny me. Don't slander me. I am your savior. Come and follow me. Brother at the back, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
You see how it says our savior is here?
Yeah.
Who's our? Is it just black people?
No, not at all. Our, because every race has been sent their own warner. For us, as black people, if you want to use that word, we're not even black, but we know what you mean but when we use that word. So yes, he sent to us, just like every other race was sent their warner, but these beings, they have a message for the entire world because what they teach is for humanity.
That's what wu-nuwapu is about. Sound, right, nothing else. All we wanted the facts. We've accepted the faith. We had faith in Allah. We had faith in Christ. We had all the faiths we get. We had bags of faith. We had our foot on the radio. We had our knees and forehead on the ground. I mean, we reached out for God, every which way. As a people of color, we reached for God in everything from, I seen brothers as highly Christians with little ball and knots. We tried everything. Now we're saying we want to ask questions. We want nothing but facts.
In order for the information to turn into knowledge, what has to take place? We talked about reasonability. Without reasonability, you can't transfer or transform the information into knowledge. It is through sound right reasoning how you take information and turn it into knowledge.
And one of the famous things that people who are familiar with him will know, he always said, don't believe me, check it out.
Don't believe me. Check it out.
Says stuff, he can't prove it. Everything I say, I prove. That's what makes me different. They talk about stuff they can't prove.
The man that has made it possible for the Nuwabian nation